So let's talk about next gen hardware because boy, do we have some speculations and rumors when it comes to next generation hardware. More specifically, in this video, we are going to be talking about the PS5 because there is still quite a few stuff going on with the PS5. Even though the PS5 is coming out right next year, it looks like the rumor mill and the speculations are flying high with the PS5. So let's talk about the PS5. First of all, we don't officially know the price point of the PS5. However, we kind of do know what this thing may actually cost when you look at the prices of like the PS3, the PS4 Slim, the PS4 Pro, all the SKUs of different Sony consoles. We may have an idea of what this console may actually cost at launch. First of all, if you read an article recently, there was an article recently posted that said that Sony wants people to upgrade as fast as possible from all the PS4 SKUs. So if you're currently on PS4 hardware, they want you to maneuver to PS5 hardware as soon as possible. And in order to get people to move over from something like the PS4 hardware over to the PS5 hardware, of course, what does that mean? That means Sony really has to price this right. So I think if Sony was to price the PS5 right, in my opinion, I think tops would be $500. I don't think they would do what they did again with the PS3, because if you guys remember what Sony did with the PS3, they launched the PS3 at around $600, and at around $600, that was just too expensive for a lot of people. And a lot of people did not want to pay $600 for a gaming machine. That was essentially all it did. Played the game. Sure, it had a Blu-ray drive in it, and it did some other stuff, but for the most part, it was strictly a gaming console. And at $600, a lot of people weren't interested with the PS3. That's why the price points of the PS4 were dramatically lower at launch and things like that. So I can see $500 just because if you look at something like the Xbox One X, and the base Xbox One that came out in 2013 were both priced at $500. And people are still willing to pay $500 for a console, especially if we look at all the rumors and speculations and pretty much everything we know about the hardware that's going to be in next-gen consoles. We do know it's going to be fairly beefy, and it's going to be a substantial upgrade compared to the PS4 and the Xbox One. Even if we look at something like the enhanced versions of these consoles, like the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, it's still going to be a fairly beefy upgrade compared to that. So I can definitely see them going $500. But the thing that makes me not believe it's going to be $500 at launch for the PS5 is the fact that, well, like I said, they want you to upgrade as fast as possible. The CEO from Sony officially said they want people to migrate over to the PS5 hardware as fast as possible, and the only way to really make people upgrade as fast as possible to the PS5 hardware is definitely going to be the price point. So I can see them doing something like $400 or maybe $450, because I think at $400 or $450, I think it's going to be appealing to a lot of more gamers, and I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards the PS5. So I can see $400 or $450 being the sweet spot for this thing. But if they go $500, I don't think that's really unreasonable for a console like the PS5. Some people are saying the PS5 might be upwards of $500, but again, I just don't see this thing being upwards of $500 unless there's some crazy tech in this and they just cannot, for the life of them, get it under $500 or around $500, and they have to charge something like $550, $600, $700 for this console. But honestly, I just do not see this. Everything makes me believe it's going to be around $500, $400, $450, somewhere around there would definitely be the sweet spot for the PS5. Next up, for the PS5 rumors, it does look like there are some rumors floating around that do suggest Sony is going to be using some type of cartridge-based system on the PS5. What does that actually mean for the PS5? Well, recently we did actually get a patent from Sony officially that they are patenting, like I said, some type of cartridge-based system for the PS5, and honestly, I don't actually know what that means. I don't think really anybody knows what that means. There's a lot of rumors and speculations floating around the internet that suggest this could actually be for a cartridge-based system for the PS5. But if you look at Sony and you look at the history of the PlayStation all the way dating back to the 90s when the first PlayStation actually launched to the market, you will notice that Sony really never made cartridges for their home consoles. They did with their handhelds something like the PS Vita. The PS Vita was, I think, their first console that Sony ever developed that actually had a cartridge-based system. It used a little cartridges for the games for the PlayStation Vita. We all know how that went. It was pretty good, but overall that system did fail. So honestly, if you ask me, I don't think it's going to be for some cartridge-based system where people are going to be playing games with cartridges on the next PlayStation. Is that possible? Yes, that's definitely possible. If you look at something like the Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch is kind of a hybrid system. A lot of people classify it as maybe a console or something like that. And since it is technically a home console, it is kind of interesting that they decided to go with a cartridge-based system compared to something like a CD-ROMs or Blu-ray drives or Blu-ray discs and things like that on the Nintendo Switch. But I guess the Nintendo Switch was a hybrid system, and of course you can't really put a Blu-ray drive inside of a hybrid system, and you can't really use a Blu-ray drive on something that's going to be handheld and portable because it would make the system too bulky, too big, too clunky, and honestly it wouldn't make sense. The loading times would be extremely bad. Honestly, bringing that thing around would be a devastating mess, just because you guys know with CDs a lot of times they can skip, they can jack up, and they're not the greatest when it comes to that, especially when you're trying to take this system on the go. So that makes sense for Nintendo to actually put cartridges on the Nintendo Switch. But since most likely the PlayStation 5 is not going to be a hybrid system, it's not going to be a dedicated handheld, it's going to be a base system just like any other of the PlayStation. It's going to be a home console. Most likely they're still going to stick to Blu-ray discs and things like that. Honestly, if you ask me, I'm pretty sure they're not going to be using cartridges for the PS5 in any shape or imagination. But however, I do believe, just like a lot of people out there, I actually do believe that Sony is going to incorporate this technology in some form or fashion, maybe for expanding the memory of the system, because a lot of people have this theory now that maybe Sony will be expanding the memory on the actual system. And there's actually pictures floating around the internet right now that do suggest that since the PlayStation 5 is supposed to have amazing speeds when it actually comes to the actual storage of this thing, and it's going to use some type of SSDs that we've never seen in any type of computer to date, or any type of SSD on the market right now. It does seem that Sony could actually be using their own proprietary SSDs for this thing, and you may have to go out and actually buy your own proprietary SSDs for the PlayStation 5. Honestly, if you ask me, I do believe this actually might be real, and that might be the reason they might be using some type of cartridge-based system, or they might have used that patent for that reason alone. And I do believe that is going to be what the PlayStation 5 may actually be doing. It does make sense, because if they're trying to make the fastest thing possible, of course they would want their own proprietary memory, and of course it would make the PlayStation 5 a little bit more cheaper, because you wouldn't have to worry about bundling in any SSD right out the gate, or if they did bundle one with the system, it would be made by Sony, so it would make a lot of sense. And on top of that, they can make the system cheaper, and then people can go out and be forced to buy their proprietary SSD type technology for the PlayStation 5, making them make up the profit of the system, especially if the system launches something at like $400 or $450. They may be taking a loss on the system, because a lot of you guys may not know this when it comes to technology, whether it's gaming technology, whether it's laptops, whether it's smartphone. A lot of these companies, believe it or not, make very little profit off of their hardware, or if they do make hardware, they don't actually make profit at all. A lot of times some of these companies actually take a loss on these products as well. So that's what Sony may do, and then make up a lot of the money on the proprietary memory or the proprietary SSDs coming to this system. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up this video for all the rumors and speculations on the next PlayStation 5. I guess some of the next or the last ones on the list would have to be that a lot of people are saying that the PlayStation 5 might actually release around December. If you know anything about that, if this console releases in December of 2020, which is going to be next year, of course, just like the next Xbox, that would be around the time that the PlayStation 1 officially launched way back in the day, back in the 90s. So that does make sense, and I can actually see that happening. I guess another rumor before I head out of here is the fact that there's a rumor floating around that suggests that there might actually be 2 SKUs of the PlayStation 5 when the PlayStation 5 actually launches next year. Honestly, do I believe that? Honestly, I'm not really too sure about that, and honestly, I don't know why they would do something like maybe a base PS4 and maybe like a PS5 Pro or a PS5 Plus or a next SKU of a PS5. I think that would just mix up a lot of consumers, and it would make the choices too hard, and honestly that really wouldn't make sense. I think at launch they would only need to have really one PS5, and since the PS5 is going to be really beefy, at least according to all the rumors and speculations, I can definitely see them just sticking with one PS5 at launch. But who am I to say that Sony can't release the PS5 with 2 SKUs of the PS5, have like a base PS5 and then have like a souped up PS5 at launch? But honestly, that would, again, it just honestly blow my mind to why would Sony even do something like that. But honestly, all these leaks and rumors are very interesting now that the next generation of consoles is literally right around the corner, and they're both coming out next year. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News. signing out.